Good evening. It's that time where we're going to have our principal call tonight, sponsored by DE and the Band of Brothers, and we've got a great one set up for us. But of course, before we start our night, we have some reminders. And the first reminder is the Spring DE, April 10th through 13th. So the cutoff is today. So if you haven't gotten your room, you actually have to 11:59 to reserve a great price for your room. So don't leave now, but after the call, go take care of it. And of course, take care of your plane fare. I hope that all the Connect groups are just really catching up with each other through these DE times. So from January to April, I know that the yellow team has been trying with emails and hopefully to get more feedback from my yellow team of more of what they'd like to see. You can contact me at maweingarten@gmail.com. And then our future dates, after spring, we have summer, and that's July 17th to the 20th back at Atlanta. And then fall, October 23rd to the 26th, Atlanta, Georgia. And then we're already talking about 2026. We'll be back in Clearwater, January 8th and 11th. So you can buy that 2026 calendar and mark that in because we know where you should be. I'll be there. And looking forward to everybody else. All right. So we have Dr. Awais as our speaker. And I was saying to Awais is that I know Awais at DE, but I don't really have that interaction that I have with a lot of other DE docs. But what I do know is because he is so grounded in the principle, which means that he loves for the sake of loving. If I had an issue, he'd come to the phone and he'd help me out because that's what DE brothers and sisters do. And he is definitely at the top of helping. He's committed to the profession. He's committed to his family. He's committed to the Georgia ChiropracTIC. He's served on their board a couple of times, and I'm not mistaken, he's either president or vice president again, but he's all in. And I just want to say one thing that I always remembered about what Awais had said as far as basically to choose bliss, and service is his bliss, and also service is his currency. I remember that from a long, long time ago. So Awais, without any further me talking, it's all to you. I love and appreciate you.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Very excited to be here, as you can tell. So I want to start off with an attitude of gratitude. I'm just very grateful for all the people that are able to attend this live, or even the people that are going to be watching the recording, taking the time out to listen. Attitude of gratitude towards the people that came before us, the people that fought in the past, to provide us an amazing, amazing life where we can just go in and serve people, and the ability to do that. So, just the people that have gone through the past, not only just, DD, BJ, and Dr. Sid, and then lots of the influential people from DE who've gone out and made a huge difference in chiropractic. So always like to have an attitude of gratitude, just very thankful for all the people that have committed so much of their time, so much of their lives. It's just always very appreciative of that. As Mindy was mentioning, I did serve twice, two-time president on the GCC. I got the white hairs to prove it, right? And right now, Dr. Dan, too, he's leading the charge on the GCC and doing a phenomenal job. And let me just start there. I would love to say that if you're listening to this, I will tell you things to do that I'm doing. So if I've done it, that's the only reason, so I'm not going to tell you something that I'm not doing myself. But from day one, getting licensed, and thank you for being involved with DE, with Dr. Sid, who was leading at that point, the concept of being politically active was always instilled in us. And I've seen the results from it, even being active with the GCC and being active at the local state level. And we experienced this with COVID, where politically everything was different state to state, how one state would have a very more conservative view on COVID, and then the other state wouldn't. And then even when they started picking and choosing which professions would be essential and stay open, and the other ones would be closed. The fact that people were boots on the ground, the people that are politically active in these state associations, influencing the leaders in our community, a lot of that stuff happens because of this groundwork that happens. So I heavily implore on you that you join your state organization, ideally the one that's more subluxation based. Hopefully you have one. If not, just at least join the other ones. Myself, again, just telling you what to do. I'm part of several different state associations that are outside of Georgia. Again, we need people, boots on the ground. If you can't physically show up, show up with your money, right? At least make sure you're part of that, because it's amazing how things can change. And, I'm sure you guys are hooked up with Dr. McCoy and some of the other doctors, especially fighting for more of the principal side, more of the subluxation side of the chiropractic, how things can change. And, all of a sudden you can't take care of a certain whole population anymore. Like, you can't take care of kids anymore, or you can't, do a certain things, or, they're trying to confuse our profession with a whole different, whole different system, which we like to make it more medicalized. And we need boots on the ground. That's the whole point. I mean, to make it simple, go to your state associations, being a leadership and having a leadership position in that not only is amazing for that association, but also it's amazing to you. I remember being president, one of my, early on, just getting my troops ready and, getting them going. I was like, this abundance is going to happen throughout. So not only is the association going to grow, but all our practices are going to grow. And that's, we all experienced that. I mean, some of my record days were happening while I was in practicing, just, even while I was president of the state association. And, these jobs, they don't pay money. But as Mindy was saying, the thinking here is different. Money is just one small physical part of this thing. There's so many other ways of receiving benefit just outside of physical thing you can measure. And, I think that's what showed up in our lives and in our practice. So I really implore you to do that. I'm glad that even like with Mindy, just talk about how much we're aligned, because the things that she was talking about, those are my notes. I'm like, I gotta cover that. So just want to talk about a few things to you. I not want to take up too much of your time. I know it's Tuesday evening, one thing I'll tell you to do is we're, into this new year, we're in March. So, the first quarter is ending, and it's like some of us are still struggling to get going, like they still, the laziness, the lag that started at the end of the year with the holiday season. Sometimes it just becomes where, little things just become habits. And it is so important for us to constantly, reassess ourselves, to make sure that we're doing what needs to happen. And the basics that we talk about, right? So some of the basics, especially in practice, with technology and all these other things, that's great. Social media, all that's great. But there's still power in the person to person, especially as a chiropractic clinic. Most of our patients, they're definitely not only coming in because we're able to help them because of the environments we've created. And some of these environments are just doing the basic stuff that needs to happen, but doing such a phenomenal job of it. And, like, for example, right? So I've talked about how there is a lack of retention as a whole in the profession, where even though the battle cry is, people need to be stay, pay, and refer, right? Like people should be under care for their lifetime. Yet the best of the best is not only not even retaining 10% of their clinic, 10% of their patient volume. And it's like, so what is the problem there? Like the retention is not happening. And a lot of times the problem is because we're fighting an uphill battle. The average person, as much as we've educated our community, the average patient that is not a referral is coming in because of their idea of chiropractic is some kind of a symptomatic modality. And that's the reason why, I mean, even today, it's like, why are you here? And, of course, I wish it was, how about my subluxations, doc? I'm trying to get that right. And, unless it's a referral that was generated from the office or, sometimes a DE doc, we had a family come in a few weeks ago and that family was literally there because they wanted to make sure they're subluxation free, and it actually got referred in from other DE doc, so, that was a blessing. But the average person, again, is is thinking that this is a modality for pain. So why would they, especially if you do a good job and there is some positive changes in their body and they're not as symptomatic anymore, what's the motivation then if that's what the whole thinking was? And so, I'd love to tell you that there is a simple answer for this. This upcoming DE, they asked me to do a educational class. If you've been to DE, we try to do some nuts and bolts because, some of you guys are like, oh, you guys are not teaching nuts and bolts. And it's like, dude, we're teaching you the most important thing. The nuts and bolts are going to be different for different people. The most important thing is, the person that's going to show up here. But still, we have specific classes, just to guys make sure that you guys, especially if you're new to practice, basics, So I was asked to do a class on finances of doing care plans and things like that. And I've done that before. I mean, I'm happy to do it. It's a talk that's already been written up, so it's easy for me to produce that. But I wanted to talk about retention instead. So, like whatever, shameless plug, right? Saturday morning, I think early on, they're doing a class on retention. And really, my whole thinking here is we're not going to win, right? Let me just kind of be a little bit, it's an uphill battle. Again, because of the fact that the whole community has put us in a box already for pain relief. So when you're talking about, hey, this is actually what we're trying to do is make your body function at its highest, at its highest abilities and maintain that for long periods of time. Again, a lot of us are not equating it. So what can we do to make sure that our patients understand that? So I'll definitely try to go over some tips with you guys. But again, the best of the best that I know that do a great job with doctor's reports, they do a great job with patient education, and there's a 3-day system, and we're educating them and stuff. And it's like at the end of the day, how many new patients came in last March? All right, how many of those are still left here? Are they still here? And that's the harsh truth, right? That's when you realize that, yeah, I want to think that I'm a because I do have some families that have been with me for years, and I got lots of them. That I'm doing a good job, but still, most of the people that came in last March, they're not coming in anymore, and where was the lack there? So try to give you some basics to create some ways to kind of, we call it a leaky bucket. So trying to fill the holes, but a lot of my solutions are going to be pretty simple stuff. It's just doing a good job of doing the simple stuff. Like, we talked about like a new patient coming in. Like, is your office ready when a new patient is coming in, right? Are they just walking in like, hey, and everybody else is like, hey, who are you? Or are they walking in and the team already knows who it is, right? And then even yourself, making sure that you're staying focused. This is something that we heavily talk about, DE, that many times the people are not dropping care because you didn't educate them. They're dropping care because your headspace is not right. You're not providing, you being in the right mind state to serve how they want to be served. And that's where the problem is happening. Even like person to person, how is your mindset? Like, just like, I know it's more anecdotal, but like in the morning, my part of my routine is I drop my kid off, and he's in middle school now. And you want to have your morning routine tested. You want to have your I'm zen and I'm focused, and I'm right there. Drop a kid off at the middle school, man. You'll see some crazy stuff. I mean, it's jungle out there. The one way is this way, but people are going this way, and then the kids are not supposed to go this way, but there's 3 cars on top of it, right? So it's like it's pretty crazy coming out of there. I don't know how you drop your kid off and leave that and still have a smile on your face, right? And but what's good for me is I have about a 5 to 7 minute drive from my kids' school to my office, and I'm just trying to fix this the whole time. That's all I'm trying to. I'm very careful on what I'm listening to. I'm very careful what's happening because I have to reset this because my patients don't deserve to experience what I just experienced, right? That's not their thing. And we talk about creating even psychological anchors, things that will help you kind of reset your mind and help you realize, yeah, all that stuff is fine, but right now I got to focus and do something amazing for the people that are in front of me. I got to provide this amazing adjustment that, like in the world, I mean, how many people really are even trained on doing this thing, and how focused am I to even provide that kind of a adjustment? And so it's amazing that, you know, like what our mindset will, how it'll affect our practice. And that's what we talk about all the time, even at DE. It's your headspace. Like we can give you the manuals, we can give you the basics, right? So it's like, this is what you need to do, but who's going to show up, right? Like when you sit down in a consultation with you, where's your headspace? Did you even look at the patient's file and try to understand who's about to be in front of you that, you know, you're going to actually help out, right? And then even on a visit per visit basis, it's like, you know, are you still thinking about what the last person said, or are you focused here? And then overall, just in general, you know, having a more of an abundant mindset. All these things have come out of DE, right? So this is like some of this, like I wasn't just sitting there and taking notes. It just starts to come into your head because you're listening to it over and over again. And abundant mindset is huge. Like you look around the universe with you and you see that there's abundance everywhere, right? So, you know, we're going into spring season here, and you could just see all the abundance on the trees and on the ground. And you know, like I'm closer to Atlanta, so a little bit of light pollution, but you go out in the country and you look at the sky and you see all this abundance that's everywhere. And the universe is just full of abundance. And then our mindset starts to, you know, is where the lack is, right? Like, you know, if you're going to the office and you're like, yeah, you know, I don't know how many people do chiropractic, you know, I don't know, there's too many chiropractors out there. It's like oversaturated or undersaturated, or people don't get it, or some news came out, so now it's different. I mean, all that stuff is, you know, it's not good here. This needs to stay clear, because when this is clear, that's when you're going to deliver the adjustment. And then, you know, just having that personal, one of the families that have been with us for years, right? It's like, it was such a learning lesson. You know, the reason that they first came in, it was not the education, and that it was just because they felt such a caring spirit from our clinic. You know, and that, like, how do I write that in the manual? Make sure the spirit of your office is right. You know, like that stuff has to come in. That's something that has to be worked on your mindset. You know, like, what kind of environment have we created here? What kind of environment am I producing for my patients? And you know, I know we want to do other stuff, and we want to do all this. You know, like, again, there's so much technology and digital and all that, and that's great. I'm not saying that we ignore that, but what I'm telling you is that the basics are constantly going to work. You talk to me about 10 years ago, and I'll give you a marketing plan that will just destroy your head, you know, it'll just blow your mind, right? So we're talking about mall booths, we're talking about screenings and dinners and patient appreciation days, and bringing hundreds of people into the office, and, you know, and all that stuff is needed, right? All that stuff is needed. And at this point, you know, having planted all those seeds and done all that work, it's like, it's just rolling for me. So I'm even careful to talk to the new docs, because I'm like, you know, we can easily ruin it for you because it looks like everything is flowing. But even at this point, like, you know, I can easily stop everything and just show up to the office, and you know, this thing is running on its own. Like, you know, so it's not like anything's going to happen, but still, it is so important for us to keep our mindset right. Like that whole thing about even educating the community that, hey, there's a better solution out there. I mean, on a daily basis, patients come in, we adjust them, doing better already. Like, how much suffering is in this community that's taking place because they don't know that there's a solution out there. So, you know, when I'm out there doing these things like talks and meeting people, you know, at this point, the motivation is not new patients, because I'm flowing already. It's already, you know, like, we're so blessed. I can show you my schedule for the last, 10 plus years. You show me a day where a new patient didn't walk in. Right? I mean, like, it's all just, it's flowing right now. But what does that mean? Does that mean, like, you know, that was good, you know, we did our part? And no, it never ends. It's a relay race, and you run as hard as you can and as far as you can. And then when you're done, you hand the baton over, and hopefully there's another guy that's trained up that's going to even run it faster and harder than you. And you know, like, I was watching this thing, and this doc is talking about, hey, I'm a young doc, and you know, I'm doing great, but I'm already feeling burnt out and stuff. And, you know, I think it's because you put your goals in the wrong place. That's why you got burnt out. If you attach your, you know, even your goals, your future, and what really comes down to is your bliss to service. I mean, how do you burn out from that? If the, you know, the adrenaline you're getting, the bliss that you're getting is from service, you can spend a whole lifetime just serving people and never burn out, right? I mean, I definitely think the burnout thing that happens, is happening in situations where people are getting off the principle and doing other stuff, which is kind of messing with their head. Because if you're just all day just serving people, I mean, there's research behind it. Even just the fact that you're contacting so many people, there's benefit to you from it. But never mind, doing these amazing adjustments where their lives are changing. I mean, you get to do that on a daily basis. And the biggest thing I'll tell you on our office is the environment that we've created, is the mindset that we have. Like the families that have been coming, I have easily 3-4 generations at this point. I mean, we're almost 20 years into this thing. So, the second and third generation have, spawned the next generation. And all that stuff is, it's because we followed the basics, right? We made sure that when our patients come in, they feel like somebody's there that cares. When something's happening with them, we're involved with that, right? So we're like a huge part of it. And not all this thing, that's not going to create, like, there's families that we've served for years and they're not here anymore. They're not under care anymore. And, I try not to be attached to that. But some of these things, some of these basics, it hopefully helps boost the retention a little bit. Because, like 7, 8, 10% retention, I mean, it's sad. Like, it definitely tells you that 90% of the people are still considering it a musculoskeletal thing, even though it's your best kid. So, the solutions are there. One of the biggest solutions is show up at DE. I mean, this group at DE, what a blessing it is to the profession. And I say this because nobody in that group is doing it for anything else, but just because they for the sake of serving, right? Because they're following this lasting purpose. Like, to us, this is not just like a fun little formula. To us, it's a path of life, and it's created some amazing testimonies that you get to hear at DE. This funny little picture that they used on my little banner. I mean, that was a great trip we took with all our DE families. Like people that we've kind of grown together and we've built this vision, and now this vision is coming true, and we get to enjoy the fruits of it. And it is the basics that work. Don't let the next email or the next little little trick or something that comes at you, hey, you need to do this and you need to do this. Don't let it take you on a whole journey where you're only going to get lost and burnt out. Stay in the principle. Serve the people. There is bliss in service. I mean, just the fact that you're serving to humanity. I mean, what other purpose is better than that? And you get paid for it. And if you're doing a good job, paid pretty well for it. You can make a great life out of it. And not everything is money. It comes in many different ways. I mean, a lot of the testimonies at DE are these amazing families. I mean, I personally myself, I'm so blessed. I have an amazing wife, amazing kids, and we're all part of this mission together, and DE's helped provide that for me. My kids are been at DE their whole lives. Dr. Sid held them when they're my oldest was a baby. So like we've kind of connected into this thing, and it's revolutionized our lives. And then we witness how other people's lives have been revolutionized. And I just say you show up and you show up and you show up with a clear head, right? Like, I know it's impossible for you to judge. Even as I'm talking to you in the next sentence, you probably judged me a few times already, So I get it. That's not what we're talking about. But just show up and just with an open heart and listen to what we're saying. And we have a very simple and clear message. And that what we're saying is just serve for the sake of serving, right? Don't in your head here, when you're taking care of the people, clear it and focus on the lasting purpose. And that's where you need to say all that other stuff happens. I've put out this challenge for the last decade and a half that I've gotten to speak at DE. I'm like, spend the next quarter serving. And if it fails on you, if it doesn't produce anything, come back and tell me, right? Like I've never had anybody, come back and say, hey, between the last quarter and all I did was just serve my community in every fashion I could, and nothing happened. I don't see that. I see you coming back and saying, wow, the whole town revolutionized, and all I did was get my head right, focus on my community, and go out there and educate them. So I hope that helps in a certain way. I know Tuesday evening, 9:30, we're kind of slowing down a little bit, but I hope I put a little bit of a fire. First quarter's ending. Hopefully you got some big plans for the rest of the year. I know I'm always working on my calendar. I want to reach out to as many people as possible so we can tell them chiropractic story and, tell them so we can pull more people out of this, just the basic modality for pain into achieving higher health and higher levels of function. So thank you very much for, having me, guys. I love so many of you, have to our family to me, and I'm just so grateful to be, pulled into this thing. Thank you very much.
Great job.
Yes.
As always, you get right to the point. Sometimes I just think about retention, that the number thing that we don't focus on sometimes is that the people that may have come into the office, you don't see them, but they're great about still talking about your office.
Yeah.
That's an important thing. It might be 10% of the people in the office that you're holding on to, but that you never know how far-reaching what you say and do today. And it does come back, because sometimes we get referrals from people like, I don't even know what that person looks like anymore.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something to hold on to. But I just love that your motivation is basically that there's just a better solution. It keeps it simple, and it's so easy then to have a conversation with people. So yeah. I really like that when you say that. And I'm grateful for that. That's going to stick in my head for a long time. I'm going to use it.
Thank you.
I like simple. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
All right. So until next Tuesday, everybody.
Yes. Next Tuesday, and then April, DE, excited for you guys. Hopefully you guys are going to come down and, we're going to have a good time. Thank you. Thank you.
Yellow team, communicate with me. All right. I love you all. Good night.
Good night.